I think after I read my opening statement, I anticipate needing some caffeine if that is available. Beach friends, coming up with ideas of how I could try to get to people. I was in Delaware until August 7th.
He actually conducted the polygraph not in his office in Virginia, but actually at the hotel next to Baltimore Washington Airport. Is that right?
Correct. I was in Delaware until August 7th.
Why was that location chosen for the polygraph?
I had left my grandmother's funeral at Fort Lincoln Cemetery that day and was on tight schedule to get a plane to Manchester, New Hampshire. I was in Delaware until August 7th.
So he administered a polygraph on the day that you attended your grandmother's funeral?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Or it might have been the next day. I spent the night in the hotel, so I don't remember the exact day. I was in Delaware until August 7th.
Believe it or not, it was Monday night, August 6th, about 8 o'clock at night. I got a call from Deborah Katz and Lisa Banks. I had done some work for them in the past, and they asked if I could do a polygraph test the next day. I told them I had a commitment. I could do it later on in the afternoon. And they said they had a client who was in from out of town that was leaving later on, early in the afternoon. If there was any way, they said it was important, any way I could try to rearrange my schedule. So I did. I was able to rearrange my schedule for the next day. I called them back, and I said I could do it the next morning.
I was in Delaware until August 7th.
He actually conducted the polygraph not in his office in Virginia, but actually at the hotel next to Baltimore Washington Airport. Is that right?
Correct.
My introduction to this case was 12 hours before I actually conducted the polygraph.
I've heard this morning several times that you did take a polygraph, and that was on August the 7th. Is that right?
I believe so. It was the day I was flying from BWI to Manchester, New Hampshire.
Okay. Why did you decide to take a polygraph?
I didn't see any reason not to do it. Based on the advice of the counsel, I was happy to undergo the polygraph test, although I found it extremely stressful, much longer than I anticipated. I told my whole life story, I felt like, but I endured it. It was fine.
After she put together the statement and then you interviewed her, these are the two questions you asked. Is any part of your statement false? She said no. Did you make up any part of your statement? Her answer was no. I don't know a lot about polygraph tests, but to me, reading this from the outside, it seemed that I would expect many more questions. Is this standard to just have the two?
Yes, it is.
Scared of the test itself, but was comfortable that I could tell the information and the test would reveal whatever it was going to reveal. I didn't expect it to be as long as it was going to be, so it was a little bit stressful.
When you do your interview before the polygraph, especially on a victim, you don't ask a lot of follow-up questions, okay? It's kind of a heinous thing that's happened that they're alleging, okay? She was interviewed in depth the day before by Lisa and Debbie, I'm assuming, and so you want to get the general facts. So to continue to ask questions and pry, you don't want someone to get too emotional, especially a victim. So when you ask that question, which is a good question, no, I just let her state the narrative.
Okay. She also said, according to your summation, on a couple of occasions, Mark would come over and jump on the bed while this was all playing out. Yes. The last time he did this, all three became separated and Blasey was able to get free and run to the bathroom. I've always been intrigued by this. Did she say that he was piling onto the two of them? He was jumping on the bed separately? Did you get any indication to that?
I think at one point that she told me during the interview that, he would jump on the bed and sometimes I think the phrase she used is kind of, hit each other a little bit and then he would jump off. And the third...
He and Brett, Mark and Brett.
Brett, yes, exactly. And then the third time, apparently he jumped on the bed. It caused some separation as she described, in the pile, which she said, I don't know if it was my strength that was enabling me to get off, or it's just that I was free, and they were so inebriated that I was able to go into the bathroom and lock the door. And then the third time,
Mark came over and jumped on the bed twice while Brett was on top of me. Brett and Mark came into the bedroom and locked the door behind them. I was able to get up and run out of the room. Brett groped me and tried to take off my clothes. He had a hard time because I was wearing a one-piece bathing suit underneath my clothing. I was able to get up and run out of the room. Brett and Mark came into the bedroom and locked the door behind them. I was able to get up and run out of the room.
Did you pay for the polygraph yourself?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you know who did pay for the polygraph?
Not yet, no.
Were you audio and video recorded when you were taking that test?
Okay, so I remember being hooked up to a machine, like being placed onto my body and being asked a lot of questions and crying a lot.
You've been doing this since 1995. I understand you spent about an hour and a half to 2 hours with Dr. Ford in this process and only asked 2 questions. So we'll get to that. But part of it was getting her written statement, which I think we can put up for folks. But also you did an interview with her about all of these allegations before you then administered the test.
You also wrote out a handwritten statement for the polygrapher when you took your polygraph test. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember being hooked up to a machine, like being placed onto my body and being asked a lot of questions and crying a lot.
People think I'm going to come in and take a polygraph. He's going to ask me 10 questions. Okay?
Was it Brett Kavanaugh? Are you telling
Did
the
this
truth
happen?
about him?
Yes, exactly.
But you just look at the overall statement
You look
and then
at
you
the
ask the 2
overall
questions.
and you ask 2 questions, and that is the most validated polygraph.
You were in a hotel room, right?
Correct.
Regular hotel room with a bed and bathroom?
No. It was a conference room. So I was sitting at a chair and he was behind me.
You were in a hotel room, right?
Correct. Directly across from the bedroom was a small bathroom. I ran inside the bathroom and locked the door. I waited until I heard Brett and Mark leave the bedroom, laughing, and loudly walk down the narrow stairway, pinballing off the walls on the way down.
And the bathroom door was closed when you heard this, is that correct?
I could hear them very clearly hitting the walls going down the stairwell.
In fact, in your letter, you said that they went down the stairs and they were talking with other people in the house.
Correct.
Were you able to hear that conversation?
I was not able to hear that conversation, but I was aware that they were downstairs and that I would have to walk past them to get out of the house.
Okay. Now, let me make sure we're on the same page. Were you not able to hear the conversation or not able to understand the conversation?
I couldn't hear the conversation. I was upstairs.
Okay. How do you know there was a conversation? In your letter, you wrote both loudly stumbled down the stairwell, at which point other persons at the house were talking with them. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, I had to walk past everyone to leave the house. I waited, and when I did not hear them come back up the stairs, I left the bathroom, went down the same stairwell, through the living room, and left the house. The multiple attempts to escape and the final ability to do so. Yes, I had to walk past everyone to leave the house. I had never told the details to anyone, the specific details, until May 2012 during a couples counseling session. The reason this came up in counseling is that my husband and I had completed a very extensive, very long remodel of our home, and I insisted on a second front door, an idea that he and others disagreed with and could not understand.
And do you have that second front door?
Yes,
You prevailed? Yes.
it now is a place to host Google interns because we live near Google.
And do you have that second front door?
Yes,
You prevailed? Yes.
it now is a place to host Google interns because we live near Google.
Did you write the letter yourself?
I did.
And since it's dated July 30th, did you write it on that date?
I believe so. It sounds right. I was in Rehoboth, Delaware at the time. I could look into my calendar and try to figure that out. I traveled, I think, the 26th of July to Rehoboth, Delaware. So that makes sense because I wrote it from there.
Okay.
Why have you held it to yourself all these years? As you look back, can you indicate what the reasons are?
Well, I haven't held it in all these years.
How did you decide to come forward?
Ultimately, because reporters were sitting outside of my home and trying to talk to my dog through the window to calm the dog down, and a reporter appeared in my graduate classroom, and I mistook her for a student. Once the press started reporting on the existence of the letter I had sent to Senator Feinstein, I faced mounting pressure. Reporters appeared at my home and at my workplace, demanding information about the letter in the presence of my graduate students. They called my bosses and coworkers and left me many messages, making it clear that my name would inevitably be released to the media.
The Washington Post article that was originally published on September 16th. Did you submit to an interview by a reporter with the Washington Post for that article to be written?
Correct.
Okay.
Since September 16th, the date of the Washington Post story, my family and I were forced to move out of our home. Since September 16th, my family and I have been visiting in various secure locales, at times separated and at times together, with the help of security guards. This past Tuesday evening, my work email was hacked and messages were sent out trying to recant my description of the sexual assault.
And you've described this as being near the country club, wherever this house was. Is that right?
I would describe it as somewhere between my house and the country club, in that vicinity that's shown in your picture.
Okay.
And the country club is about a 20-minute drive from my parents' home.
A 20-minute drive, and of course I've marked as the crow flies.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that somebody drove you somewhere, either to the party or home from the party?
Correct.
Okay. Has anyone come forward to say to you, hey, remember, I was the one that drove you home?
No.
In your July 6 text to the Washington Post that you looked at earlier, you said that this happened in the mid-'80s. In your letter to Senator Feinstein, you said it occurred in the early '80s. In your polygraph statement, you said it was high school summer in '80s. Later in your interview with the Washington Post, you were more specific. You believed it occurred in the summer of 1982, and you said the end of your sophomore year.
Yes.
Did you show a full or partial set of those marriage therapy records to the Washington Post?
I don't remember. I remember summarizing for her what they said. So I'm not quite sure if I actually gave her the record.
Okay. So it's possible that the reporter did not see these notes.
I don't know if I can't recall whether she saw them directly or if I just told her what they said.
Okay. Have you shown them to anyone else besides your counsel?
Just the counsel.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that Brett Kavanaugh's name is not listed in those notes?
His name is not listed in those notes.
Would it also be fair to say that the therapist notes that we've been talking about say that there were 4 boys in the room?
It describes the sexual assault, and it says erroneously by 4 boys.
The Washington Post reported in their September 16th article that you did show them therapist notes. Is that incorrect?
I don't remember physically showing her a note.
Okay.
Perhaps my counsel did. I don't remember physically showing her my copy of the note.
Okay.
But I just don't remember.
You said that you do not remember how you got home. Is that correct?
I do not remember.
Okay.
Other than I did not drive home.
Okay. You also attended individual therapy. Did you show any of those notes to the reporter from the Washington Post?
Again, I don't remember if I showed her like something that I summarized or if I just spoke about it, or if she saw it in my counsel's office. I I don't know for sure, but I certainly spoke with her about the 2013 record with the individual therapist.
And Brett Kavanaugh's name is not in those notes, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. It's been reported by the press that you would not submit to an interview with the committee because of your fear of flying. Is that true?
Well, I was hoping that they would come to me, but then realized that was an unrealistic request.
It would have been a quicker trip for me.
Yes. So that was certainly what I was hoping, was to avoid having to get on an airplane, but I eventually was able to get up the gumption with the help of some friends and get on the plane.
When you were here in the mid-Atlantic area back in August, end of July, August, how did you get here?
Also by airplane. I come here once a year during the summer to visit my family.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not here. I go to Delaware.
Okay. In fact, you fly fairly frequently for your hobbies, and you've had to fly for your work. Is that true?
Correct.
That you list the following interests of surf travel, and you, in parentheses, put Hawaii, Costa Rica, South Pacific Islands, and French Polynesia. Have you been all to those places?
Correct.
By airplane?
Yes.
And your interests also include oceanography, Hawaiian and Tahitian culture. Did you travel by air as a part of those interests?
Correct.
I understand that you've taken a polygraph test. Can you tell us why you decided to take that test?
I was meeting with attorneys. I was interviewing various attorneys, and the attorneys asked if I was willing to take it, and I said absolutely. That said, it was almost as anxiety-provoking as an airplane flight.
You told your counselor about this back in 2012, is that right?
My therapist, my individual therapist, correct.
Right.
I recall saying that the boy who assaulted me could someday be on the U.S. Supreme Court.
And I understand that your husband was also present when you spoke about this incident in front of a counselor, and he recalls you using Judge Kavanaugh's name. Is that right?
Yes.
In your interview with the Washington Post, you said that you told your husband early in your marriage that you had been a victim of, and I quote, physical abuse. In your statement, you said that before you were married, you told him that you had experienced, quote, a sexual assault. Do these two things refer to the same incident?
Yes.
And at either point on these two times, did you use any names?
No.
Would it be fair to say that you retained counsel during that time period of July 30th to August 7th?
I can't remember the exact date, but it was I was interviewing lawyers during that period of time, sitting in the car, in the driveway, and in the Walgreens parking lot in Rehoboth, Delaware.
Did you speak with any other person about your allegations?
Could you say the dates again?
Between the letter date of July 30th and August 7th, so while you were still in Delaware, did you speak with any other person about your allegations?
I was interviewing lawyers, but I was not speaking personally about it.
Aside from lawyers that you were seeking to possibly hire to represent you, did you speak to anybody else about it during that period of time?
No. I was staying with my parents at the time.
Did you talk to them about it?
Definitely not.
Okay. In choosing attorneys, did anyone help you with the choice on who to choose?
Various people referred me to lawyers that they knew in the Washington, D.C. area. So as you know, I grew up in this area, so I asked some family members and friends, and they referred me to like divorce attorneys that might know somebody that might know somebody, and I ended up interviewing several law firms from the D.C. area.
Did you speak with any other person about your allegations?
Could you say the dates again?
Between the letter date of July 30th and August 7th, so while you were still in Delaware, did you speak with any other person about your allegations?
I'm just trying to remember what dates that...
In your testimony this morning, you stated that Senator Feinstein sent you a letter on August 31st of this year. Is that right?
I sent her a letter on July 30th, And I don't have the date. I'd have to pull up my email to find out the date of her email.
And did anybody besides friends and family refer you to any attorneys?
I think that the staff of Diane Feinstein's office suggested the possibility of some attorneys.
Okay. Including the two that are sitting on either side of you?
Not both of them, no.
You mentioned some GoFundMe accounts. Besides those, are there any other efforts outside of your own personal finances to pay for your legal fees or any of the costs incurred?
It's my understanding that some of my team is working on a pro bono basis, but I don't know the exact details. And there are members of the community in Palo Alto that have the means to contribute to help me with the security detail, et cetera.
Both Kirk Counsel are doing this pro bono. We are not being paid, and we have no expectation of being paid.
Which of your two lawyers did Senator Feinstein's office recommend?
The Katz.
I'm sorry?
The Katz firm.
Okay. Is it your understanding that someone else is going to assist you with some of these fees, including the cost for your polygraph?
I'm aware that there's been several GoFundMe sites that I haven't had a chance to figure out how to manage those because I've never had one
And I'm sorry,
done for me.
several what?
GoFundMe sites that have raised money primarily for our security detail. So I'm not even quite sure how to collect that money and how to distribute it yet. I haven't been able to focus on that.
Both Kirk Counsel are doing this pro bono. We are not being paid, and we have no expectation of being paid.
Is it your understanding that someone else is going to assist you with some of these fees, including the cost for your polygraph?
I'm aware that there's been several GoFundMe sites that I haven't had a chance to figure out how to manage those because I've never had one
And I'm sorry,
done for me.
several what?
GoFundMe sites that have raised money primarily for our security detail. So I'm not even quite sure how to collect that money and how to distribute it yet. I haven't been able to focus on that.
Let me put an end to this mystery. Her lawyers have paid for her polygraph.
As is routine.
As is routine.
Dr. Ford, do you expect the price of that polygraph to be passed on to you?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't taken a look at all of the costs involved in this. We've relocated now twice, so I haven't kept track of all of that paperwork, but I'm sure I have a lot of work to do to catch up on all of that later.
Are you aware that the three people at the party besides yourself and Brett Kavanaugh have given statements under penalty of felony to the committee?
Yes,
And are you aware of what those statements say?
yes,
Are you aware that they say that they have no memory or knowledge of such a party?
yes.